Hey, this is Jason with Summer Camp Systems, and today we're going to look at the course completion process that will be handled by the camp staff while attending camp. If you haven't already reviewed the Transfer to Completion tutorial, it is recommended that you review that tutorial before this one because it details the process of summary and detailed course completion records. So prior to camp beginning, units logged into the application and registered for courses, and now they are actually at the event. Course rosters have been printed and they have been given to the instructors that teach the class with the names of each individual and unit that is attending his or her class. The instructor has now taught the majority of the class, and he or she has a good idea of who has passed, partially passed, or did not pass the course. So now it's time to turn in completion records to the camp staff in the administration office so they can process the course completion record. So the instructor returns to the camp clerk a listing of the individuals that partially passed or did not pass each individual course that he or she taught. And now the camp clerk is going to run some processes to actually fulfill that in the application. So the first thing to do is under the course completion menu is to go ahead and run the unprocessed report. This report basically lists everything that's still in draft status. So the goal is for the camp clerk to basically have this report return no data, and that tells him or her that all the classes have been picked up and processed for course completion. So I'll go ahead and select an event and the report will automatically run. And I can see that I have some summary records that are outstanding. And if I drop down and choose detail, I'll also see that I have some detailed records pending. So I can go ahead, I'll switch back to summary, and I'll go ahead and I can process some of these. So we'll first take a look at the fly tying, and then we'll move on to swimming. So again, under course completion, I'm going to go to the summary. I'll select an event, department, and then the fly tying course, and I can see here that the status is in draft, which is why it showed on the unprocessed report. So let's talk a little bit about the three buttons that you see to the top left of this form view: draft all, process all, and post all. So let's first talk about what these three statuses mean if you follow the seeded process. When you run the transfer, each course record is transferred with a status of draft. And then once the camp clerk processes the record, he or she should change the status to process. Once it's processed, he or she then knows that that record has already been marked and the instructor has given accurate information about who has passed, partially passed, or did not pass that course. And it will be removed from the unprocessed report. The Post All button allows you to take everything directly to posted status. Once it's in posted status, it will no longer show on the unposted report. But even more importantly, once something is in posted status, it is available for the individual units to go back and run their completion reports by unit to get an accurate measure of what was completed and what was not completed at camp. So in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and process fly tying, and you'll basically note that once it's processed, if I go back and I rerun the unprocessed report, the fly tying has been removed because it is now in process status. So as a camp clerk, I now know that I have processed those records and they are ready to be posted to the unit when I'm ready to do so. Okay, so in the case of swimming, we'll go deal with swimming, which is a detail example. So I'll go back to course completion. And again, I'm going to go to completion summary. I'll select an event, aquatics department, and swimming. And as you can see here, there are several people in this class. And some of these are incomplete, some of these are incomplete. And then basically they're all in draft mode. You'll also notice that there's a drop down over here. It says process detail. This allows me to process both the summary and detail records at the same time. So in this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and process everything, and I'll get a message that it processed both the summary and the detail records. Now, as I mentioned in the previous tutorial, it is recommended that you transfer everything in completed status and you only deal with the exceptions, because the goal obviously is that most attendees at camp complete the course. So in this particular case, we know that Allie Berg did not fully complete this course. So now we're going to go into the detail and we're going to mark the course requirements that she did not complete. So again, I'll go back to course completion, and now I'll go to course completion detail. Again, I'll select my event, aquatics department, swimming, and I'm going to pull up Allie. And as you can see here, because I clicked the complete all and process detail in the other form, it has already set everything to complete. But I know, for example, because the instructor has informed me that Allie could not perform the 400-meter swim. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and edit this individual course requirement, change it to incomplete, and I can also optionally add some comments. And I'll go ahead and click update, and now only this requirement has been incompleted for Allie. As you'll notice, she is still complete on all the other requirements. So she's just got a little bit of work to do to complete her 400-meter swim, and then she can successfully pass off this course. So again, now if I go back and I run my unprocessed report, you'll notice that the only course that's now left is the morning run course. So in this case, I'll go back to course completion summary. I'll select an event. I'll select exercise and health and the morning run. And I can see that I've already completed all of these individual course records for these individuals, but you'll notice that one is now in draft. So in this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and complete this particular record for Jennifer. And I'll also have to go into the detail and do the same, since I've already posted the other transactions for morning run. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to run the unprocessed report one more time. I'll select my event, and I'll ensure that both summary and detail have no records. This means that everything has been processed by the camp staff and is ready to move on to the next step in the process, which is basically doing a final sync to the header and then running the incomplete reports. In this particular case, I'm going to go back to course completion, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go sync summary to detail. So we realize sometimes that it's possible that just human error in general in processing many of these transactions, that it's possible to have the header of a particular transaction in incomplete, but maybe the detail is actually complete, or vice versa. The header is at complete, but the detail is at incomplete. So the sync summary to detail basically does a double check of all the course completion records for that particular event, and ensures that if any one detail record is at incomplete, the header is at incomplete. Likewise, if all the detail records are at complete, the header record is set to complete. So I'll go ahead and select my event, and I'll go ahead and click submit, and as you can see, 164 summary records were reviewed, 407 details, and basically nothing was in a state where it had to be changed, which means the header and detail were in sync from what the camp staff had processed. So once this process is finished, I'm now ready to run the incomplete reports, which can be run by course so the instructor can do a final validation, and they can be ran by the unit so the unit leader is given a copy and has a chance to talk to the individual attendees and ensure that they truly did not complete a specific course or a course requirement. So I'll go ahead and go back to course completion, and today I'm just going to use the incomplete by unit. But if I run this and I actually select an event, it'll run automatically, and then I get a report of only the items that are left in incomplete state. So in this particular example, Alex Brewing did not complete one of the requirements for swimming. So as you can see, I can scroll through this and it gives me a different report for each unit, and it basically lists out the things that a particular person did not complete. The unit leader can go back and review these with the individual to ensure this is accurate. If there's changes that need to be made, obviously the camp staff can go back into the individual courses and then basically change the course completion records to match any discrepancies. Once the unit leaders have signed off on all the incomplete reports, we're ready to post the records to a posted state. So instead of going back through each individual course record like we did the first time, this time we're going to use a mass transfer to basically move everything from a process state into a posted state. So again, under course completion, I'm going to go down to final posting, and I'll select my event, and I'm going to go from processed to posted, and I'll go ahead and submit the process. And as you can see, the records were updated, both summary and detail, from processed to posted. Once this step is complete, I can run my unposted reports just as I ran my unprocessed reports and validate that everything in the application has been posted for a given event. Run it by summary as well as run it by detail. I have no information, so at this point everything is posted for this event, and I am done processing this particular event at camp. Since things are now posted, the unit leaders will be able to log in and review an entire completion report that shows both complete and incomplete activities for each participant at camp. As a reminder, you can always go to summercampsystems.com/docs to get the latest help information about the application. In this particular tutorial, under the camp user menu, under understanding course completion link, all the information about course completion is detailed. There are several links here that talk about processing course completion, the unprocessed report, synced summary to detail, the incomplete reports, final posting, and then the unposted report that we just covered in this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks, and have a great day.